This video is for you if you've never raised Hyprland before or if you're a beginner. I'll show you how to make a minimal, clean setup with no distractions that lets you get stuff done, kind of like the one that I have here, pretty much exactly like this one. Now, if you can't sit down for however long this video is going to be and follow along as I tell you, it's not likely that you're going to get a clean and minimal setup, right? So if you're going to follow this guide, you might as well do it right. Close all your other tabs, make sure that you focus. Great, now that I've mentioned that, let's get into it. Okay, now that we are here, let us start by first getting rid of this warning. So we'll open the terminal with superq and open the config file, hyprland.conf, and remove this auto-generated equals 1 line over here. There should be a couple of more introductory comments, right? Yeah, that you can just get rid of. And once you do that, you should be able to get rid of this warning. Next thing is, everything is a bit too zoomed in. So the scale is right now 2x instead of the normal 1x. Okay, so everything is twice as zoomed in. Let's fix that. So you see the monitor line here, right? So we have a comma, then we have preferred, then auto, then auto. So let me explain what's going on over here. On the first line, this space over here, the before the comma, that's going to detect your monitor. Now, if you're on a laptop and you don't have any different monitors attached, this is going to just pick up the main display that you have and change the settings for that main display. Okay, preferred, this is the resolution. So if you can change this to something like 19 or rather 1600 by 900, and that would change the resolution. Okay, then yeah, okay. Then we have another setting over here, which you can just visit the wiki and check out. But the most important setting we have is the scale. So I'll just change the scale to 1. And once you change the scale, as you can see, everything is normal. Now, as I change the resolution, the scale automatically adapted. But in case it doesn't, just make sure that you change the scale over here to 1. Great. Now, if you've been on Windows before and you miss the scaling ability to scale your apps to 125 or 150%, well, it's simple to do that. Now, this is going to be 1.25. So 1.25 means that all apps are scaled to 125%. 1.5 would mean 150%, and 2 would mean 2x, 200%, which is basically what we had before, okay? So I'll just change that to 1 because that's what works for my display. Change 1 to whatever number you want, or you can keep it the same as me. Great. Now that we have done that, let's see. Let us customize the wallpaper next, okay? So let's close this, open our browser, and look for some wallpapers. Let's look for a couple of minimalist wallpapers. First, I'll show you the wallpapers that are necessarily or not necessarily following a theme, right? Like these ones. And then I'll show you how to pick one that is actually following a theme. Okay, so we can just pick any one of these. Like for example, this one. Okay, this one's pretty nice. Click on view file. Okay, well, that's no problem. We can just go over to the website and then access it. Okay, now as you can see here, we can download original wallpaper, right click, save image, save it in pictures. So you can create a pictures and then a wallpapers directory, which is what I'll do. Pictures, wallpapers, let's save it. Okay, it's done. Now, as for setting wallpapers, we are going to use a tool called swww or sww, as I like to say. Because saying swww over and over again is just, it's a pain, and so I'm just going to call it sww. So in order to install sww, we're going to have to yay-s sww, and that's it. Hit enter, and that should install it. I already have it, so I'm not going to install. And let's figure out how to set it up. It's actually pretty simple, right? So we open the terminal, and first, start the daemon. Now this is if you're not auto starting just yet. I'll show you how the daemon works, and then I'll show you how to auto start. So we start the sww daemon, hit enter. Okay, great, the daemon's running. Now we just pick the wallpaper using sww img pictures, wallpapers, and then the wallpaper name. Hit enter. And as you can see, the wallpaper changes. Cool. Now let's kill this. As soon as we kill the daemon, this is going to disappear. Our wallpaper is going to disappear. The best part about sw is we can add in a bunch of transitions. So if I resize the window, okay, resizing is with super and right click. Okay, we can use super and right click to resize whatever window we want. Great. Now with sw, we have a couple of arguments we can pass to it, like transition type. Okay, let's say that's center. Transition FPS. Okay, 60. Transition FPS 60, and let's see. We can also pass in a transition step to be 255. Great. Now, if we hit enter, nothing's going to work because we killed the daemon. So let's restart it. Right. So basically, you're going to see this transition effect that I'm talking about when you change the wallpaper. So right now we only have one wallpaper. Okay. If we find another one during the session of this guide, then you will see the transition. But apart from that, basically just know that the transition is going to look like it's growing from the center. So you'll see a little peak of the wallpaper in the center over here, and then it's just going to grow out smoothly, as smooth as possible towards the edges of the screen. Okay, great. Now, how do we auto start this? Auto starting is actually pretty simple. So we open config hyprland.conf, scroll down over here, and there should be an auto start section, right? So you can just add in your own line over here that says exec once, right? So execute once when entering the window manager, or rather the Wayland compositor for the first time. Okay, what are we going to execute once? swww daemon, sw daemon. Great. Okay. Now, the next time we log into Hyprland, the daemon is going to be already running, and so we can just use the sw command as usual. Now, what if you wanted to make this daemon run in the background immediately? Like you didn't want to log out and then log back in, deal with all that crap. So you just wanted to make it work. What you would do is you would use the ampersand symbol. So when you use the ampersand symbol, what happens is you're able to use the terminal like usual. Great, you're able to use the terminal like usual, but there is a caveat to using just the ampersand symbol, because when you close the terminal, the app dies. There is a way to truly fork an app to the background, and that is by using ampersand disown. So if you run the daemon and then disown it, you can use terminal as usual again. You can close the terminal and then still have the app running in the background. So that's a little pro tip for you there. Okay, now we've set that up. We've set up the daemon. Now let's see what else we've got to do. Let's set up a status bar. So for the status bar, we're going to be using Waybar. So you'd install that with a-s waybar -needed. Okay, so I only install it if it's not already installed. Then I enter my password. Okay, it's up to date, and so it's going to skip it. There's nothing to do. Now, let's create a new Waybar config. So we're going to copy etc xtg Waybar, right? We have these two files over here, which we will copy over to .config. Okay, now cp is a command which we use to copy files over. -r stands for recursive. Okay, now if you don't include this -r flag or this switch, whatever you call it, you are not going to actually be able to copy the entire directory over. It only works for single files if you don't use recursive. So because now the reason why this is because everything is a file, right? In Unix philosophy, basically everything exists as a file. And so when you're using -r, you're going inside the Waybar directory and basically just telling it to grab both these files and put them here, right? No need to complicate it too much. Just know that this stands for recursive and that you use this when you are dealing with folders and copying folders over. Okay, so you copy that into config, then you cd into .config Waybar, and let's see. This is what we have over here. We have a config.jsonc and a style.css. Now, if you haven't programmed before, if you haven't written any code, this might seem a bit daunting, but it's actually pretty simple. There's nothing much that we have to worry about. So we open config.jsonc. And by the way, I'm using neovim. You can use whichever text editor you want. Okay, now what do we got over here? We have got a lot of stuff. Before we actually get started with configuring, let's set up the reloading function. So let's say when I press the super key and R, I want my bar to reload and I want all the changes that I've made in order to be visible, okay? So we are going to create a scripts directory here, cd into the scripts directory, and then we'll create a launch.sh. Here, we will add in the shebang line, okay? We'll call this bin bash. Now what is this shebang line doing over here? This shebang line is the first line. It's mandatorily going to be the first line in any shell script that you write, and it tells the shell that you're using. Okay, right now I'm using the bash shell, so if I echo $shell, it'll give me user bin bash because I'm using the bash shell. Okay, so what this does is basically tells the shell what interpreter it's going to use in order to interpret the rest of this file. So I could change this to something like ZSH if I had ZSH installed, and it would use the ZSH shell to interpret the rest of the commands that I have over here, whether it be like echo hello or echo 1 plus 2 or something like that. And by the way, if you want to know more about how to actually write shell scripts and what this notation and all of it is, right? What this notation is and how to actually use it when it comes to rising Hyprland and stuff, just click the top link in the description. I teach you everything that there is to know about rising Hyprland. I've been doing it for 3 years, and yeah, I've been making setups that contain theme switchers and systems that adapt to the different wallpapers that you're using and a whole bunch of other cool stuff. It's like 8.5 hours long, and I've included everything I know from rising Hyprland for 3 years. So yeah, just check it out. It'll help you. Great. Now, what we're doing here is actually pretty simple. So when it comes to starting Waybar, we're just going to kill Waybar if it's already running. So use the command kill all-9 Waybar, and then we run Waybar with Waybar ampersand. Notice here that I don't use the ampersand disown, right? I'm not using disown here because this is running in a script. And if this is running in a script, there is absolutely no need to use disown. Okay, now that we've done that, let's change mode with chmod +x launch.sh and hit enter. Now what this does is it basically adds in the executable flag to launch.sh. So if I show you with ls-la, you see this green text over here. Before it wasn't green. So if we make another shell script and call it launcher or something, so if we touch launcher.sh and then ILS, you're not going to see that it has the same green thing. And that's because by adding in chmod +x for launch.sh, we have added in the executable flag over here. So our current user can both read, write, and execute this file. But the execute permission is missing when it comes to this launcher.sh file, right? So we don't need the launcher.sh. We can get rid of that. Launcher.sh. Okay, it's rm to remove. And that's it. We have this. Now what we need to do is go into config hyprland.conf and go into the binds section. Okay, these are all our keybinds, and we're going to have to add a new keybind, okay, $main mod r, and we'll add in exec. Okay, we're going to execute which command? We're going to execute home/.config waybar scripts launch.sh. This is the file that we're going to execute. Okay, now before we do anything else, if I just run Waybar, this is what it's going to look like, right? So I'll just kill Waybar with a Control-C. Now, if I press mod K and R, okay, now before I do that, let's see, mod R is already executing the menu. So let's change that to mod D. And for the terminal too, let's change mod Q to mod return. So it's going to be super key and enter. Okay, kill active will make that mod W. You can change it to whatever you want, right? Then everything else should be good. Now if I press mod key and R, the bar is performing the reloading function. And best part is I can get rid of this window. Awesome. Now let's get on with configuring this. So we'll go to config.jsonc, and what do we have over here? We have got a lot of modules, but nothing to worry about. So I'll just start explaining what modules are here one by one, and then you can see whether you want them or not. Right now, Sway Workspaces is not going to work because we are on Hyprland. Same thing for sway mode and for sway scratchpad. And because we're going for a minimal looking setup, we're not going to need most of these modules anyway, so we can just get rid of them. Let's get rid of all this. Custom media too. I'll show you how to add that media module in later on. Okay. And if you want to know how to make Waybar configs that look like this and a whole lot more, then just click the first link in the description. I teach you how to do it. Okay. Now for module center 2, we don't need sway window. And now for the modules, right, here's where we can actually start culling a lot of stuff. So we don't need the power. And now this is okay. Now, if you're a true minimalist, you honestly wouldn't even require the tray, which I don't. So I'm personally going to get rid of it. Same thing for second battery, language, keyboard state, backlight. Okay, it looks nice, so I guess we'll keep it. CPU, memory, temperature, you don't really need all that. Okay, you can just get rid of it. In my opinion, you really don't need to sit there and look at your CPU usage because it's just going to keep fluctuating anyway. And unless there's a major problem that's going on with your machine, in which case it's it's stuck and then not opening any window doesn't work. And unless it's in that sort of a situation, you won't really need to see your stats. And besides, even if your computer were in that sort of dire straight situation, you'd know that your CPU was blocked up and it was at 99% usage anyway, so there's really no point of keeping these 3 modules over here. They just clutter your bar and don't really give that minimalist look. Okay, now for power profiles daemon, we can leave that. Network, pulse audio, don't need the idle inhibitor or MPD. Okay, awesome. Here is some of the static stuff that we can do that's not inside the style.css. So here we can change the height of the bar. If you like a bigger, thicker bar, you can do that and increase the bar height. I personally like a 32, so it's not too thick, but not too thin either. Okay, then you have the spacing between modules. We really don't need this. We'll get rid of that. And if you're one of these people who likes docks, okay, you can change the width of the bar in order to get that dock-like feel. And you can also move the bar to the bottom, like so. And change that to bottom. And this is what that would look like. It looks like a dock. Okay, so we'll keep this. This dock-like feel actually looks pretty nice, so we'll keep it. And let's see, is there anything else? Yeah, there's still a lot more culling that we can do, so let's go ahead and remove whatever stuff that we're not going to use from here. So we'll get rid of this. Okay, then keyboard state, don't need any of this stuff. Get rid of it. CPU, get rid of it. Memory, temperature, get rid of it. Don't need that. Then what else? Custom media, custom power. Power, we can just use the menu. We can just use this to log out. So if we want to log out, we can press super key and M, which would log us out. And if we want to, that's pretty much it. What else are you going to do? Okay, if you want to shut down would be power off. If you wanted to reboot, you can just type in reboot. So that works. You don't really need a power key over here that you have to press. Okay, then what's this? You can get rid of that line with the media. Get rid of this because we only have 1 battery. Okay, backlight, clock. Yep. That's pretty much it. Now, let's go ahead and get Hyprland workspaces. If we open LibreWolf, go to github.com/Alexe's Waybar wiki. Okay, we'll just zoom in and go to here, one of the modules, which is Hyprland. Hyprland, scroll down, and you'll see the workspaces example. Yeah, this one. Okay, so you copy this, and then you paste it somewhere here. Paste it like so. 1, 2, 3, 4. Now, in the modules left, we'll add in Hyprland/workspaces. Hyprland/workspaces. Put in a comma over there. Reload, and as you can see, workspaces are working. So we have different icons for the different workspaces, and we have names given to them too, as you can see here. Now, if you don't want the name of the workspace to be shown, you just want the icon to be seen. Okay, no problem. Get rid of that. And you just have the icon seen, like so. Great. And let's say the first terminal were to be, first workspace to be something like Chrome. So you can just copy, paste the icon here, switch things around, like so. Okay. Reload. And as you can see that. So let's switch it. Okay, awesome. Now that we've done that, let's see what other modules we have to fix. Pulse audio is working. Network's working too. Let's move Power Profiles daemon to over here. Hello, this is Sane in Post here, and just had to tell you a little bit about Power Profiles daemon. So the thing is, it's basically just a tool that allows you to set different states of your computer. So if I show you this, we have balanced, power saver, balanced, and performance, right? So it's basically a toggle that allows you to switch between those things. Great. Now to install it, all you have to do is just type in -s or use Pacman for this. Type in -s power profiles daemon, like so. Okay. Then once you do that, if you want to control the changing of these different performance settings through the terminal, then you would have to type in power profiles ctl. Okay. Set performance power saver, or we also have balanced. Now, if you're on a desktop, you can just set it to performance through the terminal, and then you can remove the module that you had that I showed you earlier. You can just get rid of that. If you're on a laptop, then you can keep the module, just set it to performance to begin with. Okay, then you'll be able to change the different power profiles using the toggle that we had over here. Okay, clock is also good. Okay, everything else works. Awesome. Now we need to start styling it. But before that, let's see if there's any other fixing that we can do. Any other fixing? Okay, the format. For the network module, let's go over here and we'll change the format for the Wi-Fi. So we don't need the signal strength here. Yeah, we can get rid of that. Reload. Okay, it looks pretty minimal. Same thing for pulse audio. We only need to see the speaker volume. So format, we don't need to see the source. And just cut that out. Okay, good. And that's it. As you can see, it's already starting to come together and everything looks minimal. Awesome. Now, let's edit the CSS. Okay, let's scroll down. Okay, great. We'll edit the CSS. We go over to style.css, and what are they saying over here? They're saying that Font Awesome is required to be installed for icons. Let's not use Font Awesome for icons, okay? Because that's proprietary, and we can get something better. We can use JetBrains, Mono, Nerd Font, Propo for the fonts, and if that fails, we can use sans serif fonts as a backup. Okay, so if I reload, as you can see, the font changes. And by the way, if you haven't installed JetBrains Mono Nerd font, just install it with -s JetBrains Mono Nerd. I think that's what they're called. Okay, if we just look for what it's called, yeah, it's TTF JetBrains Mono Nerd. Install that, and you should get the nerd fonts like so. Okay, great. Now, if you prefer this type of font, if you prefer the font that you see in your browser, like this kind of font, if you prefer that, you can change it. This is what I personally prefer. So I like using SF Pro Text for my bar over here. So I get this type of font. And you can change the font weight, remove the font size, keep it, and then you can change the font weight to something like bold. Yeah, it helps. It helps with the visibility too. So that's that. Okay, then let's see, what else do we have here? It seems like a lot, but not really. All we're looking to do is customize this portion. Add in a little bit of spacing between the different modules, add in a bit of padding so that the modules are floating inside the bar, and we should be good. That's pretty much it. Great. So background color, let's see what we can change the background color to. We can leave it as is. Remove this border that we have. Okay, border removed. Color, the text color of whatever text that we're dealing with. We can leave that to be white. No, that works. Then transition property. Now what is this transition property doing? It's basically saying that it's animating the background color. So, or rather adding a transition to the background color. So if any time the background color changes due to whatever reason, it's just going to add in a transition to it so that it's smooth and it's not jarring. Okay, so if the hidden part of the waybar, we're going to reduce the opacity. Now that's fine. Now we're not using any of these settings, so we can get rid of that. Solo, empty, and whatnot. Scrolling down to over here, we can see that this is the part where we have all the different modules. Now, this padding setting, what that's doing is basically adding 0 pixels of padding to the top and bottom, and adding 10 pixels of padding to the right and left. The shorthand works like this. If you have two values in padding or margin for that matter, the top and bottom is going to be represented by the first one, and right and left is going to be represented by the second one. If you have 4 values here, so let's say 0, 0, 10, 20, 10, 20, it's going to be top, right, bottom, left. So if we write this and I show you what it looks like, yeah, this is what it looks like. So we'll just revert it back to what it was originally. You can change it to 20 and then start experimenting with stuff, see what you like more. If you like more of this spaced out kind of style, but I think it should be a bit more moderate, so we'll make it this much. Great, it works. Awesome. Now, what do we need? We need to push this bar up a little bit so that it actually looks like a floating taskbar, and then we need to separate and push out the modules a little bit more. Okay, now how we do that is let's open config waybar and the waybar config.jsonc. Now what do we do here? We add in a margin bottom. Okay, so we add in a margin bottom. Pretty sure that's what it's called. And then we add in 13 just to start with. Okay, yeah, as you can see, it works. Now, in order to get to know how much margin bottom you should give, you can try this tactic, okay? This is what I use personally. So I'll just open my Hyprland config hyprland.conf. Let's look at the gaps section. Okay, gaps in is 5 and gaps out is 20. Okay, now let's change that. Let's say I want 13 pixels of gaps for both inside and outside. This is what that would look like. Now let's say I don't want so many gaps inside, but I want half. Okay, so half of 13 would be something like 6.5. Let's make it 6. Okay, 6 works. Great. But I want more gaps outside, so we'll change it to something like 17 or 18. Make this 9. Okay, works. Yeah, works. Now, because this is 18, we'll just have to change the margin bottom here to be 18 too, so that it's perfectly aligned between the window and the bottom of the screen. Write our changes, and yeah, it is aligned. Okay, awesome. So I'll just get rid of these two windows. Okay, great. Now, let's remove the background color. We'll just make this transparent so that we can have more of the island style modules over here. Transparent, great. Now, for these, let's add in a margin, 0 for the top and bottom, 13 pixels for left and right. Okay, too much. So let's not do that. Maybe something like 6 or 5 pixels. Works. Okay, it's already starting to come together, as you can see. Pretty nice. Okay, awesome. Now, what else do we need? We need a border radius. So let's just add that in here. We'll change the border radius, make it something like 10 pixels. Yep. As you can see, it's looking great. For this section, we can add in a bit more colors to it. And instead of using icons, we can just change it back to numbers, and then add in a bit of a highlight behind the button itself. So let's do that. And if it seems a bit off, so if it seems like there's more spacing between the bottom of the screen and the modules instead of over here, it's basically because of the border. It's only the border that might be throwing you off. If that bothers you, you can just change margin bottom to be a couple of pixels less, which is what I used to do, but right now it looks fine, and so we'll just keep it. Yeah, so we've done this. Now for the color. For the color, let's keep a monochrome bar. Or what we can do is we can take this. We can use hyperpicker and then pick out a color from this wallpaper and then put that in over here. So if you haven't installed hyperpicker just yet, yay-s hyperpicker. Enter your password. Mine's already installed, so we'll run hyperpicker. Okay, whoops. Let's just run hyperpicker from here. Hyperpicker. Okay, and this is the same color, so we can just copy that. So it's 323D49. That's what we need to put here. 323D49. Write our changes. As you can see, it's already starting to fit in. Now for the rest of the modules. Okay, so I just changed the colors around and removed a bunch of the unnecessary stuff that wasn't required, and this is what I got. Okay, it looks very clean and minimal already. We have a couple of hover colors that are remaining. That's fine. That's okay. Now we need to customize the workspaces. So for the workspaces, let's actually get rid of this icon looking thing and let's put down numbers over there. So config waybar config.jsonc, and let's see. We'll add in the media module in the center. Okay, great. Then for the workspaces, so we only have the icon, or rather all we need is the name. So we'll add in name like so. Now you can't tell whether which workspace is focused or which isn't. We'll fix that, no problem. We can get rid of these icons because we're not using them. Persistent workspaces. Here is where you change the number of workspaces that are persistent. So if you only use 3 workspaces by default, you can change it to 3 and all you see is 3. I like to keep it at 5, so I'm going to keep it at 5. Okay, reload, close. Now for the workspaces, let's add it here. So hashtag, let's see if we already have it. Workspaces, yeah, it's already here. So we'll add in a fresh set of colors. So for workspaces, button active. This is the class that we need to use in order to target the active workspace button. Paste this in. So for the active button, what do we want to do? We want to change the background color to E8EAED, and then the color to be, what was it, D8 something. 323D49. I got it. So 323D49. Put that in. EW. Yeah, as you can see, this is what it looks like. Right now, there's no transition, but we can add in a transition. So all we have to do is add in the transition property over here, add in the duration and timing function, which is ease in out. So this is the transition that we get. The same thing we can actually add to every single element. So if we put that here, okay, every single element should then have the transition. This one too. Okay, now maybe every single element is basically taking a bit too far because the text color is also taking time to change. So let's put it back. Only for the workspace button. So paste that in over here. Great. Then what else is it? Need to increase the border radius. So I'll make it something like border radius 10 pixels. Okay, great. You can even make it a circle if you make it something like 100 pixels. Close, about 100%. Yeah. That is a circle, but it looks more like an oval. So let's change it to something like 5 pixels to keep that sort of rounded aesthetic. Like so. Then let's change the font size to something like 16 pixels so we can read what's going on. 14. Yeah, 14 is pretty good. Yeah, 14 is good. Okay, now we have set the workspaces and basically Waybar up. This is a minimal looking Waybar that we can get away with that gets the job done. pretty fantastically actually. So this is not a bad bar, this looks amazing. And by the way, if you want to know how to make more Waybar configs like this that are minimal and that actually have even more functionality, just click the top link in the description. I show you how to make everything from scratch. And I mean like literally everything, as I've said before. So yeah. You also get more variants that you can choose from, where you have the ultra minimal module, where all you have is just the clock here, the workspaces, what you saw previously, and then what do you call it? There's something else over here, like your control center type of stuff. That. Then you also have the Waybar configs that I teach you how to make in my previous videos, where you see that there is a switcher-like thing. That. Okay. So we have done that. Then what else is it that we need to do? Now let's set up the GTK theme. Right now, it looks a bit hideous, right? Light theme. Now, no offense if you're a light mode user, but come on, what are you doing? Just switch to the dark side already. It helps you save battery and actually do a lot more stuff while saving your eyes. So let's go over to pick some GTK themes. So if you go over to gnomelook.org, you'll find some cool GTK themes that you can use. Okay, so you have, these are all icon themes, but if we look for a GTK theme, we can find one. So we see one called Squared by one of the OGs, Oliver Lara, and this is what Squared looks like. Okay, pretty nice. As you can see here, looks extremely legendary. You can just look through the different images, see which one you want. This is more of a Nord-like aesthetic to it. This has more of that Nord aesthetic. If you like it, you can pick this one, or you can keep switching between these pages and then finding out which one you like. Now, I personally like this one called Graphite GTK theme. Now I'll tell you why. With the Graphite GTK theme, you can get a theme which basically is like pitch black. And one of the benefits to having a pitch black theme is that it doesn't matter what wallpaper that you pick, it's always going to match. Because if you have one thing that's constant, like for example your GTK theme, that's just completely black, it doesn't matter if your wallpaper is red, blue, pink, violet, yellow, indigo, whatever color, it's going to match and it'll get the job done without looking out of place. Okay, so this is what we need to install. Now, if you're on Arch Linux, you can actually install it. So if I look for Graphite GTK theme, yeah, you'll find that all these themes are available to be installed. But the way that I like to do it is to go over to code, copy this URL, and then install it ourselves. So git clone, paste that in. Okay, and pro tip, you can change the depth to --depth equals 1, and this will only clone like the first level of the directory. It's not going to give you the entire commit history and whatnot. So it's much more useful because you only need the theme and the install script anyway. Then cd into Graphite GTK theme, or you could also use it from the releases section. So if you didn't want to run it through this cloning tactic, what you can do is just download it from here. But it's basically the same thing. So you can cd into Graphite GTK theme, ls, and /install.sh. First, we'll check out what help he has over here. So these are the options that we need to pick. Install.sh, okay, -c to be dark, -t to be gray, or if you have a specific accent color you like, you can pick that here. But t to be gray, the default is gray. Then size -s standard, and let's say I want the compact as well. Compact, install both, then install the GDM theme. Now, if you were coming from the GNOME desktop environment and you have GDM installed, which is going to be your display manager, then you can install the GDM theme as well. But let's keep things separate and not install the GDM theme. You want to install -l, which is the libadwaita version. Libadwaita is basically this new framework that all GNOME apps are using. If I show you Foliate, for example, this is a GTK4 app and it's using libadwaita to theme it. So as you can see, it looks a bit different than Thunar, which is a GTK3 app. Like you can just tell, right? This one looks a bit more polished, but the thing is they get rid of more theming functionality from here, which is not what you want. But we still want to theme everything, so we'll put in the -l to apply it to GTK4 apps as well. Okay, great. Then for the -- tweaks, here is where things get fun. You can change the different aspects of this theme by adding in Nord or black or darker or whatever other options they have here, right? So if you're on GNOME Shell, which we are not, we're not going to be able to use these two options, which are float and colorful. What we'll be able to use is black, nord, darker, and rimless. I like black for the GTK theme to be pitch black, so I'll just select that. We make the tweaks to be black and rimless because we don't want the rim that they have going on here. Yeah, like this, the 2-pixel outline. We already have the outlines drawn for us by Hyprland, so we'll not keep that. Okay, we install that. Yeah, just hit enter. Let's see. Okay, so we'll just get rid of this. Let's see whatever it gives us. Installing it, done. Now, you need to install an app called NWG Look. Type your password, I already have it. So if we open NWG Look, this is what we see. So I've installed a couple of different themes before, okay? But the one that we are looking for is Graphite Dark. So as you can see here, the moment that I select Graphite Dark, things look much better. Hit apply. The same thing should get applied over here too. Here we have this jet black looking theme, so it doesn't matter what wallpaper we pick again, it's going to fit in. And you can change the font that you have here. If you don't like Advaita Sans, you can pick something like Noto Sans. Okay, Noto Sans. Or if you've installed a custom font, you can choose that, which I describe exactly how to do in my program that I've mentioned below. But yeah, Advaita Sans looks good enough, so we'll keep it. For the icon theme, we have a couple of different icon themes that we can install. Best one, I would say, is the Papyrus icon theme, which you can install with EA-S Papyrus icon theme. Okay, you can type in your password, and this is what you get. You can also install Papyrus folders, okay? And what installing Papyrus folders gives you is the ability to change the color of your folders. So if I select Papyrus Dark over here, you see the folder color is black. Originally, for you, it's not going to be black. So you'll just have to change it using Papyrus folders -C black. So I'll change the color of the folders, and then you'll have black folders like I do over here. Okay, so you can select Papyrus Dark for the icons, hit apply. Okay, now for the mouse cursor, same thing. I've installed macOS cursors, but Advaita looks pretty good. So we'll just keep that. Hit apply, great. Now for the font rendering, we can actually improve the font rendering a whole lot more. Now, if you see here, the font rendering looks a bit meh. Like honestly, it just looks bad. So to fix it, we don't really have to do much. We can change the font aliasing to RGBA, which is what most of our displays are using, and the RGBA order to be RGB. You can test it to see which it is for your monitor, which setting this is for your monitor, but for pretty much all laptop displays and the monitors that you get, it's going to be these settings. So hit apply, and it should change. So you can just close and reopen the windows. Yeah. As you can see, it's already changed. Now hinting. What is hinting? Hinting is basically just adding extra sort of stuff or extra instructions to the font in order to make it align with the pixel grid that's on your monitor even better. But yeah, you can experiment whether you like full hinting more or slight hinting, but I'll just leave it as it is. Okay, now that is for the GTK theme. We've customized our browser to look good. Okay, browser done. Rest of it is just customization that you have to do on your own, which is going into the settings and cleaning all this stuff up, which you can do yourself. That's pretty easy to do. Okay, now what else? The terminal, yes. Customizing the terminal so we get more bling. Let's install ZSH. Best way to get more bling in your terminal is to use ZSH. So if we install ZSH, enter in the password, you should have the ZSH shell installed on your machine. Now, what you have to do to change your shell is chsh-s bin ZSH, okay? Then it's going to say changing shell. Then you need to enter your password. Shell changed. Now if I log out and log back in, the shell should be changed. Now the shell is changed, as you can see by the prompt here, and we forgot to do one thing, which is just add in Waybar to the auto start. So config hyprland.conf. Let's just add it to the auto start section, auto start. We'll add in exec once the Waybar thingy. Okay, Waybar. Now run this and we get Waybar up and running. To install a good ZSH theme that you saw in my earlier setup, what we have to do is go over to omyz.sh, okay, install omyzsh, copy this line, then paste it in over here. And once you do that, it's going to clone omyzsh into your machine, and then it'll change everything for you. As you can see, we already immediately got a better config, just like that. There's still more stuff that we can do with Oh My ZSH, like they have a lot of themes that you can pick from. So if we look for the different themes that they have, okay, like the default one is Robbie Russell. We can go into the ZSHRC and then change whatever theme we have over here. Okay, yeah, these are all the different themes that we have to pick from. Okay, we can pick Agnoster for that OG power line look. Okay, this is what Agnoster looks like. Then Alan Peabody. Got really creative names for these. Okay, looks like Bash. Then Amuse, Apple, Arrow. Arrow looks good while still being minimal. So you can pick that. And yeah, so let's find one that looks good. Yes, Gallifrey. This is one that I used to use earlier, so we'll pick that. Gallifrey. Okay, looks good. Now, let's change the border color in Hyprland's config. Border size, reduce that to 1. And active border, let's change this gradient looking thing. Okay, then let's say, what can we change this to? Okay, like thicker borders. This one. So we make the window floating. Use hyperpicker to pick a different color. 545 E6E. Copy this. Paste it in over here. Paste it. And remove this RGB A thing. Remove the A from here because the A stands for the alpha channel. The alpha channel basically dictates the transparency of whatever color that you're using, or the opacity. AA means that it's on a, what do you call it? It's on a spectrum, right? The opacity. So you have less opacity to more opacity. And the closer that this letter is to F, right? Yeah, F, the more opaque it's going to be. So we'll just leave it like this, write the changes, and yeah, or we can pick an even brighter color, like picker. Let's see, we can pick this color or this one, hiding in the back, and yeah, it works. We can pick this one too, E2, E1, E1, E2, E1, E1. Okay, much clearer. Or this one, D1, D0, D0. Okay, change the inactive border to this color, 586274. Okay, remove the A. Yeah, works. Okay, now for customizing Kitty itself, let's look at what we can do. Control Shift F2 is the key to open the config. So here's what we have over here, right? We've got a lot of stuff, nothing to feel overwhelmed by. All we need is to change the font and then change the padding that we have over here. And then the color scheme, which is pretty simple. So we'll change the font family. Right now we're using the default monospace font, which I have customized to be SF mono. So there's a thing that you can do, right? By default, the font that's going to be picked by your machine, by Linux, is going to be something like Liberation Sans or Noto Sans and Noto Sans Mono. But there's a trick that you can do, is a thing, the config file that you can edit that allows you to change that to be whichever font that you want. I've explained that in a lot more detail in my program that I've mentioned in the description, so just go and check that out. I explain everything there is to know about font rendering and adding in custom theme switchers and writing your own Waybar themes from scratch. So yeah, for now, we will add in the font family to be Geist Mono Nerd Font Mono. Okay, so if I type in, we look for Geist Mono Nerd Font, right? Geist Mono, we won't find anything, but it's actually in the repos. Yeah, so it's OTF Geist Mono Nerd. You can install that, and once you do, just write the changes, Control Shift F5 to reload, and this is what you see. Great. Change the font size over here to something like 13, Control Shift F5. Yeah, 13 works pretty well. 13, 14, okay. 14 is also neat, so we'll keep that. Okay, done that. Then for the colors, right? Let's see, color scheme. Let's pick a color scheme that would be befitting this wallpaper, which would most likely be one dark color scheme. So one dark theme for Kitty. See if we find one dark. Okay, we have onedark.conf. Now we can click on raw, right click, save page as, and we'll save this inside .config kitty and call it onedark.conf. You can save it there, okay? And once you save it, we just have to import it. Okay, so include is the keyword, so we'll put that in over here. Include onedark.conf. Okay, reload. And as you can see, the colors have changed. Now, one last thing we need to do for the terminal is to figure out how to add in a window padding. So let's open the config again, kitty.conf. Now we'll look for padding. Yeah, so window padding width, say 10. Okay, it works. Yep, that's it. Let's just change that to 25. See if we get a better look. Okay, So right now I had it set to 25. Let's see here. Okay, there we go. Perfect. Now we have finished that, and that's pretty much it. We also have to configure the block shape cursor that we have here. It's pretty simple. We just look for block, okay? And we should find it somewhere here. Yeah. Cursor shape block and shell integration should be no cursor. I added this setting later on. So we need to change the cursor shape to block in order to prevent the line from appearing. And you see here where it says shell integration something. So the cursor shape can be one of block, beam, underline. Note that when reloading the config, this will be changed only if the cursor shape has not been set by the program running in the terminal. This sets the default cursor shape. So if you run an app like neovim, for example, it can change the cursor shape to a beam. Now, in order to prevent that from carrying over to the prompt that you see here, you have to add in shell integration, no cursor. Okay, so this sets the default cursor shape. Applications running in the terminal can override it. In particular, shell integration in KT sets the cursor shape to beam at shell prompts. You can avoid this by setting shell integration to no cursor. That's what we've done over here. Okay, awesome. Now one last thing left to do is just to configure Waybar so that it shows us whether there's a window in a workspace or not. Okay, that's also pretty simple. We just open the wiki first. So github.com, Alexei's Waybar wiki here. Okay, when we go to Hyprland, right? Yeah, scroll down. Okay, so I actually had to do a bit more sorcery in order to get it done, but this is what it looks like in the end. Let me explain what's happening over here. So, first, the urgent color and the hover color, all that's the same. So that's no problem, that's fine. Now here is where the magic happens. Here we have the active workspace icon, right? So the currently focused workspace is going to have a background color of 6CBDE9, which is this blue color. Okay, blue goes in with the rest, so I just picked blue. And it's going to have a color of 323D49, which is this background color that you see. So that works for the active workspace. Then for the empty workspace, which are all of these workspaces, as you can see here, all of them are empty. They're going to have the color of E8EAED, which is this white color. Then for the workspace that is empty but active, right? So if I switch to a workspace and it's currently empty, but then it's the active, it's the focus workspace, then it's going to have a background color of 6CBDE9 and a color of 323D49, which gives us this effect. So I can open a window here, and then go somewhere else. And as you can see, all the populated workspaces have a changed text color to the blue color that you see here. And all the unpopulated workspaces are just as you can see, they're plain. So yeah, that gets the job done. That gets it done, and that is pretty much it. Here we have a minimal looking, clean setup that is distraction free and that lets you actually get stuff done. Pretty amazing, I'd say. Now, if you want to know how to make setups like these and a whole lot more, just click the first link in the description. I tell you everything about how to rise Hyprland, and I give you pretty much my brain has been uploaded onto that. So 3 years of rising Hyprland and Linux rising knowledge and everything that I have has just been uploaded and offloaded onto that. So if you want to download my brain when it comes to this stuff, just go ahead. First link in the description. See ya.